that this is becoming more normative. Tell us why you think so.
Well, I think there's a lot of layers and trends that make up this larger conversation. So you're right. On one level, this idea of bivocationalism, like there's nothing new, right? We even have that term tent maker because we draw inspiration from Paul, who made tents. And throughout church history, we can see kind of the ebbs and flows of this conversation. And, particularly in the US throughout the 20th century, and just how that conversation shifted. But I think what is interesting is, I think it's simultaneously on par with like an economic shift as well, as we move away from kind of being like a manufacturing economy into like a post-industrial, post-manufacturing economy, which has its own set of rules. So I think there's something to play there. But I think also part of it too is kind of the funding mechanism that we have seen undergird denominations is shifting. Like we see this in international missions. We would say like, oh, so much of funding comes from the baby boomer generation. Well, what's happening to the boomer generation? And we can see it's a generational conversation. It's an economic conversation. It's even like a marginalization conversation as the church continues to move away from mainstream into the margin. So I think there's a number of reasons why that shift continues to move us in that direction, where I think we're seeing this conversation become not just on the fringe, but it's definitely more normative across denominations and networks and more.
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to be so. Andy, unpack for us a little bit what you felt were the real problems that you saw out there in ministry, maybe you could use the term pain point that motivated you guys to come together and write this book. Why? I mean, there's some other books on bivocationalism. Why this one?
Yeah. I think for me, it probably started when I actually was cruising through Portland, and Sean and I got a coffee, and I asked him, I believe it was at that time, I asked him, who is exemplifying this type of ministry paradigm? Who should we be looking to? And he said, you are. And I was like, oh, really? And that was surprising to me. I mean, I knew I was sort of doing it, but I kind of viewed my version of it as pretty JV level. And then as we unpacked that a little bit more, I thought, that's I guess I am doing it. I guess I have been doing it for a while. And then I've been a part of several conversations, kind of a micro church oriented conversations and other conversations in kind of older denominational settings. And I'm seeing a couple of things. Number one, that there's a need to start kind of grassroots missional churches that don't fit within the normal paradigm. Number two, there are kind of established churches that are not going to be able to function the way that they used to for very long. And this idea of co-vocationalism, bivocationalism is one of the answers. And though there are some books out there still seem to be a ton of questions and not a lot of great examples of it having been done well. So I think we sort of looked at our track record, and Sean and I both realized, we've been doing this for a bit. And so then Sean came to Tucson, took me out to Mexican food, and asked me to write a book with him. Probably could ask me to marry him at that point. It was almost the same sort of scenario. No, it was
that scares me a little bit there.
Well, yeah, we're not going there. But no, it's we realize a lot of people are having this conversation, and probably they need more than just theoretical stuff, and they need to see more of people who've done it.
I'll jump in too. And I think one of the common feedback I hear all the time, as I work with church planners every day, is a lot of the Bible conversation is even kind of projected from people who are not even Bivo, right? Mm-hmm. And so me, Andy and myself are like, well, we're in it. Like, we're not spectacular. Like, we're not coming from like this great reverse engineering, like, oh, we've done this and now we're amazing. And look at our huge platform and status. And now you too should be. It's like, well, we do this. Like, we're in the trenches. Like, we're literally in the midst of juggling this responsibility, that responsibility. And so it's like, well, how about we write it as actually like practitioners?
Yeah. And I was just going to say
It really is a good, easy read. A large part of my ministry has been bivocational, and I appreciate you coming at it with that perspective. I won't mention any names, but I remember there was a book came out 20-ish years ago about church planting, and it just hit the bookshelves by storm, and people were buying it. Oh, this is so great! This is an authority and whatever. And I got to researching a little bit and found out the guy who wrote the book had never planted a church. but he was a good writer and he was a good researcher, but there wasn't anything practical in it in the sense of what he could bring. So I appreciated that as I was reading this. Now, I will say this: we are going to drop links to the book and maybe even some of the other books, Sean. I know you've written to your church websites, that kind of thing, into the description below. So we want people to be able to check that out and be able to get that. But the book is a quick read. And it's very engaging. It's very engaging.